Hey, what is up, guys? It's Brennan here, and today we're going to be covering what is a payment gateway, as well as how does it work with examples, what is a payment gateway versus a payment processor, and what's the difference between the two to clear up some information there. So getting right into the definition of what is a payment gateway is a merchant service provided by e-commerce platforms, point of sale systems, or another provider that is accepting payment for products and services. So this could also include brick and mortar businesses, traditional retailers as well. So anyone that is accepting payment for products and services, they're using a payment gateway. And then the payment gateway is a secure interface that passes information from the merchant's website, as well as like a point of sale system or any kind of interface, to the payment processor, card association, and then to the customer's issuing bank, and the payment processor through the acquiring bank, which, if you're not too sure about what that means, we're going to be diving into the examples and what each of those are in just a moment. So we'll get to that in a little bit here. And then next, what are the uses of a payment gateway? So a payment gateway can be used to accept payments from a variety of sources, such as credit and debit cards, which are what are most popularly used by customers, as well as virtual currencies such as PayPal or Venmo, and even cryptocurrencies in some cases, such as a Bitcoin or Ethereum, which are the decentralized currencies that some payment gateways also allow you to accept through your website or business. So that's another option there. Although, of course, most popularly, which is what we're going to be focusing on primarily in this video here today, is on the credit and debit cards, because that's what most businesses are going to be accepting as payment for their products and services. So those are the typical uses. As you can see here, we have a couple of pictures of both of those payment methods there. Now, what exactly does a payment gateway do? So the exact setup of what a payment gateway does is they act as a secure encryption, and they will encrypt the sensitive credit card details to ensure the information is passed securely between the customer, the merchant, and the acquiring bank. So they are kind of like a specialized secure network that will transfer that information securely, and we're going to get into the specific processes in just a moment here so you can understand the full system and how it all works. So how does it exactly work? So a typical transaction process, it's a little bit complicated. We're going to be taking this step by step. So just if you want to rewatch the video, rewatch this part, but this is really important here. So this is how a typical transaction process goes. So you have a customer up on the top right of the screen. That's a customer pushing their little shopping cart. This could be both in person or online. They go to the website, they click their submit order or equivalent button. It could be where they enter their credit card details using, or it could even be a phone service where they're talking on the phone and providing important information over the phone as well. And then a customer is then getting their information input onto an order form. So as you can see here, then that order form is what happens next. All of that information is then passed to the order form. So if the order form is on a website, then the customer's web browser would encrypt the information and is sent between the browser and the merchant's web server. So that's what we're going to be getting into with the payment gateway on the left in just a moment. And this is done onto that order form through an SSL, which is a secure socket layer. So they want to make sure that if you're running a website where you're accepting payments such as e-commerce, you're building an e-commerce based website, you want to make sure you have the secure socket layer, the SSL. That's going to provide the right level of encryption for customers' credit card data. And then the payment gateway will then allow the transaction data to be sent directly from the customer's browser to the gateway, which would bypass the merchant systems. This is another option as well if the information is going directly to the payment gateway and not even being stored at all on the merchant's web servers. So there's another option there. Some payment gateways will just take the customer directly to a payment portal. Either way, it achieves the same setup there. So, and this would reduce the merchant's need for payment card industry data security standards, or PCI DSS compliance obligations, without redirecting the the customer away from the website. So that's another option there. It could be either directly through the gateway where they enter their order details, or it could be on the merchant's website. Really just depends on how you want to get things set up, or if you're using a website, or if you're just using a payment portal like in point of sale system in brick and mortar stores. So if you're doing things physical, that's another option there. So then once that order detail information is passed from the customer to the order form and then to the payment gateway, the payment gateway, as you can see here, is that black box there. It locks up that information and keeps it secure on the payment gateway's servers. And then, so the merchant forwards the information, the transaction details, to the payment gateway through the payment gateway, which is another secure SSL encrypted connection to the payment server hosted by the payment gateway. So as I just mentioned, all of that information is then hosted on the payment gateway servers. Then the payment gateway will convert that information over to the payment processor, which is used to the merchant's acquiring bank. So as you can see here, you see that little bank image there. It is then thrown over to the acquiring bank and processor, and then the payment processor will forward that transaction information to the card association, which, as you can see here in the image, it's MasterCard, Visa, and American Express. Those are most common. Now, if it is an American Express or Discover card was used, then the card association also acts as the issuing bank. So an issuing bank, for example, could be like Chase or Wells Fargo. They're the bank that is issuing that credit card or debit card to the customer. So you might have a Chase credit card, but then it operates on a Visa card association. Now, like I said, if it's American Express or Discover card, they also act as the issuing bank. So they act as the issuing bank as well as the card association, and then they will provide the direct response, whether it's approved or declined, to the payment gateway. And like I said, if it's Visa or MasterCard, then the card association would route that transaction to the correct issuing bank, such as a Chase or Wells Fargo, for a quick example there. Then the credit card issuing bank receives the authorization request. It verifies the credit and debit card availability. So if there are funds available for the customer, it verifies that information via the same process with the authorization response code if it's approved or denied. So if it's approved or denied, that is what is going through the issuing bank, and then it gets rerouted back the other direction, communicating the authorization response code, whether it's insufficient funds or the bank link is not available. The credit card issuer holds the authorization with the merchant and the consumer for the approved amount. So if it's a set dollar amount, say it's a $200 purchase, then it will go through. If it goes through, whether or not it goes through, that's the authorization there to make sure that the funds are available from the customer. So this will impact, obviously, the consumer's ability to spend further, because it would reduce their line of credit. Of course, if they have a $3,000 credit limit, for example, they spend $200, then it would lower their total credit limit down to $2,800. And it could potentially, it would reduce that limit line, and then it might hold a portion of the funds in a debit account. So beyond that, once the payment is approved, so long as the customer has the funds available, then the processor forwards the authorization response to the payment gateway. So it goes back to that secure server on the left here in that black box, goes back to the secure servers of the payment gateway, that authorization code, and it is then interpreted with a relevant response, such as authorized or AUTH, that will show up on the merchant's website as well. So then this in this entire process only takes 2 to 3 seconds. So once it's authorized, then it shows up with that little receipt on the right to show that the payment has been cleared and authorized. So this could be with a little receipt that shows, okay, the payment has been processed correctly and it's been authorized fully. So that is what that little checkbox, so it's all approved and it's good to go. That is what happens after it's been authorized. And then once things have been authorized and everything is all cleared, then after that, after the initial clearing process, then the merchant can fulfill the transactions, such as shipping the order or shipping the package directly to the customer. And then that moves into to prepare them to settle with the merchant's acquiring bank. So this is where the merchant account and the acquiring bank kind of comes into play here, as you could see on the screen with the merchant account and the acquiring bank. So once the merchant submits all of their approved transactions, it could be in a batch at the end of the day, to their acquiring bank for settlement via their processor, then it will all, as long as it's been explicitly authorized as cleared, then the acquiring bank will make the batch settlement to request to the credit card issuer, to the issuing bank, to actually transfer those funds directly. So once the acquiring bank then will deposit the total amount of approved funds into the merchant's nominated account, which is also known as the merchant account. That is that holding period there. It might take about 2 to 3 days, typically 3 days, for then the merchant to receive the funds from the customer. So there's a little bit of a lag time there for the authorization and settlement of the funds to fully transfer from the customer's issuing bank and the card association, well, the card association that's linked to their issuing bank where the funds are available, then for those funds to be transferred to the merchant's merchant account. Then after the merchant account, it could be different than the business's actual bank that they use beyond just their payment gateway and the merchant account and their acquiring bank. If they say they use a different business account, then it could be transferred out to there. So it could be, depends on if they're doing their banking with the same bank or if they hold an account at another bank. If you are the merchant and you hold a bank at another banking institution, then that's up to you. But that whole process after the initial authorization, which is that 2 to 3 second period, then it's going to take about typically 3 days for the full settlement to go through. So a lot to explain there. Of course, rewatch this section if you want the full explanation again. I'll be linking the sources down in the description box below as well if you want to just read through all the specific details as well. I read it out through with the little images. Hopefully that helps. Next, we're going to be getting into payment gateway versus payment processor. So I just explained that quite a bit here in detail with the payment gateway as well as the acquiring bank and the processor, but to lay it all out just once again, a payment processor is linked with the merchant's acquiring bank and forwards the transaction to the card association for approval. As you can see here, the card association holds that approval whether or not the funds are available from the issuing bank. And then the payment gateway is what it also passes the customer card information through the payment gateway secure servers, but the gateway is what relays information to and from the website or whatever interface is used to accept payments. So as you can see in this image here, it could be a brick and mortar store where they accept payment that way. The payment gateway is more or less the interface that interacts directly with the customer card information and the website or the point of sale system, or for brick and mortar stores, if they're accepting it with a card reader, then that's what the payment gateway does. They're kind of that intermediary between direct communication to the customer, and then it lets the website owner, the business owner, if they're running the e-commerce store, they get that authorization code. That's what the payment gateway really is in charge of, is the full authorization process at the end. The payment processor more or less just interacts with the acquiring bank and the card association for the direct approval of whether or not the funds are available. So hopefully that clears that up a bit. They are different and they are typically used interchangeably. A lot of companies kind of say, oh, payment gateway and payment processor, when indeed they are actually a little bit different. So that is the whole process there. And then if you want to get set up with a pretty solid payment system, Shopify is an e-commerce platform that does offer simple payments and payment processing. I've personally used them. I do like them. This is a shameless plug. Link down below if you want to get that 14-day free trial with Shopify. Now, if you're not interested in Shopify, maybe you want to look at other payment gateway options as well. I do have another video of the 10 best payment gateways. I will link a card up on screen here. So if you want to get set up with Shopify, link down below, or if you want to check out some other payment gateways that I have talked about and kind of done like a little list, and you can look at the top 10 that I have put in a video right here in the card. The 10 best payment gateways in my opinion. So anyway, guys, that is all for today's video. So if you enjoyed it, be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and that notification bell so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. But anyway, guys, that is all for today's video. So I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.